Human rights, longtime educator, you seem to have this passion about human rights, the preservation of civil liberties, promotion of democracy here in the Ukraine. What's made you so passionate about this? What's the problem you're trying to solve here in your mind?
You know, when in these very cold days of January 2 years ago, Ukrainians stood up to defend their liberties and freedom from an aspiring tyrant. We, as members of civil society in Donbas, created a civil liberties coalition. I had to quit my job at the university, which was supporting the government and such, and later joined the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission, where I could see firsthand how this conflict was unfolding, which grave violations of human rights were taking place. Unfortunately by both sides, but I was confident that the reason for these grave violations of human rights and violations of international humanitarian law was they were taking place because of the Russian aggression.
And I read that you're doing some work trying to build some collaboration between the United States and Ukraine. What do you think America cares?
The United States cared a lot since Ukraine regained its independence when the Soviet Union was collapsing, and there was this Budapest memorandum signed. The U.S. was a party to that memorandum, basically saying that if Ukraine gives up its nuclear arsenal, and it was one of the largest ones in the world, its sovereignty and territorial integrity will be protected. Unfortunately, when Russia violated our territorial integrity and sovereignty, annexing Crimea and taking parts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, it was not done enough actually to help Ukrainians defend themselves from this aggression. But the United States, as the European Union countries, they stood up in the form of sanctions. These sanctions proved to be working since the Russian authoritative regime feels this pressure. Many of their monies are in Western banks, and the Russian society doesn't know that their leaders are some of the richest people on earth. But again, more could be done. There is always this space for closer cooperation. We see much cooperation from NATO. Ukraine is more favorable towards joining NATO since this aggression demonstrated who was our true ally and who was our true enemy.
If you were to think ahead over the next 12 to 24 months, what are one or two things you'd like to see accomplished that you think would improve the standard of living in the human rights and democratic governance here in the Ukraine?
First of all, it's our internal struggle to overcome this legacy of corruption, nepotism, and violations of civil liberties, which continue, unfortunately. And secondly, international community should do some resolute steps to help Ukraine face this challenge. And I think one of these steps could be the introduction of UN peacekeeping force. Peacekeepers could stop violence, they could protect civilian population and stop these human rights violations of grave scale. Since people are still dying despite the Minsk agreement, despite all the ceasefires, we constantly hear that new shellings are taking place, and because of the ineffectiveness of the current arrangement, namely the presence of OVC monitors, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe cannot provide armed personnel. The civilian monitors can be prevented from observing the withdrawal of heavy weapons, basically by any armed man. So there are reports constantly that they were prevented from entering such and such checkpoint, and they were shelled and attacked. A week ago, their vehicle was attacked by armed groups, and I think that only peacekeepers with the UN mandate can be an active force in resolving this conflict.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.